Hello everyone and welcome back to the YellowDog 3D Tips blog. Today we're going to be having a look at the new object tracker inside a Cinema 4D R18. So with the blank scene open, just go to motion tracker and drop a motion tracker in, and we're going to go to the footage and we're going to load in our footage. And I've just converted my footage to a PNG sequence because it seems to work with that really nicely. So here we go, here's the footage. It's a phone screen that we're trying to track today, and I've just stuck a piece of paper with tracking markers on top of the phone screen as to avoid reflections on the screen which could interfere with the track. So to begin this process, what we need to do first is solve the camera, but in order to do that we're going to need to mask out moving things in the scene that will interfere with the camera solve, so his arm, anything else that moves. So if you go down to motion tracker tags and add a mask constraint to the motion tracker, you'll get this nice mask overlay, and this just works exactly like a mask in After Effects except it automatically keyframes. So I'm just dragging sort of the corners over the objects that are moving in the scene. The phone doesn't move until he moves it, so we can leave it in until the point where he moves it. So I'm just going to go all the way through the footage and mask out his arm and the phone once it begins to move. So here we are with the completed mask and all the keyframes. So in this case we want to exclude from the mask, so make sure you set that up properly, don't put it inverted. And now we can go into the motion tracker and just click create auto tracks, and I've put number of tracks 300, and I've put in the options I want the default search size to be 150. I think the default is 50, but for this case it's moving quite fast, so I've upped that, and I'll just hit auto track and pause the video. So here we are with the completed camera solve. As you can see, there's a lot of green points, which is good. That means that they're good solid points. And just scrub through the video and make sure that they're all sticking in the right place. Once you're happy with it, you want to go into the motion tracker and click lock solve data, just to stop anything happening to the good camera solve that we just made. So once you've done that, go down to motion tracker tags and add a position constraint, and just drag this point to a feature that you want to be the center of the scene. If I look at the grid, that's now the center of the scene. So again, go to motion tracker tags and add a vector constraint, and you'll get this little line, and what you want to do is align that with an axis or a perspective line in your scene, but it has to overlap on top of a tracker. I'm going to set this one to the x-axis, and now if you look at the grid you can see the x-axis is aligned to that. I'm going to do that again, but this time for the z-axis, so the edge of this bench would be a good place to do it. You just want to be doing this on nice, easy to see perspective lines, so this bench is a perfect thing because it's got perpendicular lines. So once I've got that set up and overlapping some tracking points, I want to change the axis to z. And now you'll see when we look at the grid, it's nicely aligned, sort of runs adjacent to the floor, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. So we can start to move on to the actual geometry tracking now. So there you can see our scene is nicely set up with the camera. It's facing the right direction. So what we need to do now is add some manual tracks onto this screen, the area where there's no tracks because we masked it out. So we go into the motion tracker, go to 2D tracking and go to manual tracks. We can now start to add our own tracks onto this. So what you do is you press Alt and Control or Command if you're on a Mac, and just drag a point to somewhere solid that you're going to be able to track for a long time. And once you're happy, just click manual track and it will actually track this super quickly for the whole duration of the clip. This is actually really quick. I don't know how they've made it so quick, but it's the fastest I've ever seen. But now if you scrub through the clip, you'll see that you've got a nice tracking point that's stuck on, but it will drift out. It's just inevitable. It always drifts out. So what you can do actually is find the point where it drifts out and just realign it. And you'll see in the bottom left corner, it's going to reprocess the whole clip according to the adjustments you've just made. So if you just keep scrubbing through, find the points where it drifts out and realign it. You need to make sure these tracks are absolutely solid. If they drift out even for a few frames, it's going to mess up the whole geometry track, so take some time doing this. And it says the minimum amount of tracks that you need for an object track is 3, but I would go for around 10. The more the better really. 3 will almost definitely not work. So I'm just going to pause the video and come back once I've tracked quite a few points on this screen. So here we are, we've got I think it's 10 points on the screen, all solid, and they all run for the entire duration of the clip, which is ideal. So the next thing we need to do is make a piece of geometry that's going to be tracked. So in this case it's a plane because we're just tracking the screen of the phone. So I'm just going to match this up. If I just position this and rotate it and don't move it up and down, just move it side to side, I should be able to find the right position because I set my ground plane to the bench which the phone is on. And just a little bit of resizing and positioning, and there we go, it's roughly matching. Maybe a bit of rotation needs to happen. There we go, that looks good to me. That's probably as good as I'm going to get it. So the next thing is just to add an object tracker to the scene, and in the trackers you'll see that the motion tracker node has been loaded into this automatically, and we just need to drag our plane into the geometry object, and we need to go into the motion tracker and select all of our manual tracks, and then go into the object tracker and go assign selected. So now all of those manual tracks are loaded into the object tracker. And under the reconstruction tab of the object tracker, we just run 3D solver for object. So just allow a little bit of time for that to run through, and once it's run through, you'll get something like this. So it's actually not sticking just yet, but that's because we need to drag the plane onto the object tracker, and now it should follow along just perfectly. So there we have it. Our screen is now tracked on, and that's looking pretty good. If I wanted to get it even better, I could have added more manual tracks. So as you can see in the perspective view, we're getting the behavior that we wanted from this scene, and we can go ahead and parent anything we want onto this plane object. So I've got this little cube here, which is going to sit on top of the phone screen. If I just parent that onto the plane, that's going to now follow along nicely with the screen. So I'll just hide the plane and just show the cube, and now you can see we've got this cube that's perfectly stuck onto the phone screen, and all of this has been achieved in quite a short amount of time. It's really simple to do. It's a really good new feature of R18. So once again, thanks for watching. This has been the YellowDog 3D Tips blog. Stay tuned for more 3D tips. Cheers!